Hello, this is Steve, and this is a Casio Waveceptor watch, and I hate it. Every time the battery runs out, I have a nightmare trying to set the time correctly. I took it to Timpson's last week to get a new battery, and the shopkeeper gave it back to me without charging me any money because he said he spent an hour trying to set the time correctly, only to see it go wrong again on its own. I'm making this video because there's very little information out there on this particular watch, with no mention of this model on Casio's website. Googling Waveceptor watches gives you details on every watch apart from this model, so this video will definitely help you if you need it, because as far as I can see, the entire internet's got no information about this watch. This is a Casio WVQ570DE watch, which is no longer manufactured. However, engraved into the back of the watch there's a small box with a 4-digit number, which is the mechanism of the watch. This is a 4798 mechanism, and this allows us to find a data sheet for the watch, and I've put this in my Dropbox for you to download. It's in the video description, so please give me a like and a subscribe if you find this helpful. The key to getting this horrible watch set correctly is a combination of 4 things. First, the watch is a Waveceptor. This means that the watch is receiving a radio signal that makes the time super accurate. Therefore, when you set the time manually, it usually doesn't help you, because if the watch is wrong now, it's going to go back to being wrong as soon as it receives that radio signal. Secondly, the watch can forget its calibration. What this means is that the watch thinks that the hands are pointing to 0 when they're actually pointing somewhere else. Because the watch is receiving a radio signal to keep it accurate, the very fact that the watch is displaying the wrong time probably means the watch actually thinks it's correct, but the hands are not calibrated correctly. Third, you don't need to set the time, because the radio signal is doing that for you. All you need to tell the watch is what time zone you're in and whether the clocks are an hour forward or not because of daylight savings. Finally, you need to be sure that your watch is supposed to be displaying the local time. Because this is a dual time watch, you can have your local time and a holiday destination programmed in at the same time, and you can flick between the two. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the watch's modes by looking at that horrible small window display that's between 3 and 4 on the dial. The buttons are referred to as A, top left, B, top right, and C, bottom left. If your watch has more than 3 buttons, it's not a 4798 movement, and this video won't help you. Look on the back of the case for the movement reference number and search for another video. Pressing the C button will cycle through the modes. The current mode is shown in the little window. You'll see ST for stopwatch, DT for dual time, AL for alarm, HS for hand setting mode, and HT for home time. These modes are not very helpfully named, but it's important that you understand what they mean. HT is the home time. This is the time you want the watch to display 99% of the time when you're wearing it. It's the setting for you and your home location. Remember, as I mentioned before, you're not going to set the time and date on this watch, you're just going to set the location, and the radio signal will do the rest. DT is dual time. This is a second location, maybe somewhere you want to go on holiday to. This can confuse matters, so I'm going to ignore it for now, but if you'd like to, you can set HT as your home time and DT as a time for somewhere else. HS is the hand setting mode, and this is the important one because that's the thing that's probably going to solve all your problems. We can ignore AL for the alarm and ST for stopwatch because they're self-explanatory. We can cycle through all of these options by pressing the C button, which is the bottom left button. So let's go ahead and start setting the time and date on this horribly unintuitive watch. First of all, press the C button, that's the one on the bottom left, and keep pressing until the screen display window shows HT for home time. Now, hold down the A button, that's the button on the top left, and keep it held down until the display window starts to flash. You're now in the settings mode, and the second hand should rotate around to point directly at 12 o'clock. If the second hand stops pointing somewhere else, then your hands will need recalibrating. We'll come to that later. Now you can see the GMT indicator on the window display. Press the B button on the top right to change this value. Each time you press B, it will increase or decrease, going all the way from 0 to plus 12, then back down to 0, then down to minus 12, then back up to 0. Keep pressing this until it displays the value you want based on your country. London is 0, Most European countries are 1. Cape Town, Helsinki are 2. Just ensure you have your watch to be plus or minus the appropriate amount of hours, or 0 if you're in the UK GMT. Once you have the correct time zone displayed, press A on the top left to get out of settings mode. The second hand will rotate back to where it was, and now you're in home time mode again, and in theory everything's working correctly. Your watch should be displaying the correct time and date. If it's still wrong, we need to calibrate the hands, and we do this by pointing each of the hands at 12 o'clock in the handset mode, or HS. Press the B button on the bottom left of the watch until the handset HS is displayed in the digital display. Hold down the A button on the top left until the display starts to flash 0. The second hand will now rotate to where it thinks 12 o'clock is. Watch the second hand rotate around and see where it stops. If it doesn't land exactly on 12 o'clock, a single press of the B button will nudge it along one spot. Or hold B until it starts to rotate, release B, and then press B again to stop it. Then you can nudge it again with an individual press of B, and you need to keep doing this until the second hand is exactly at 12 o'clock. Once the second hand is at 12 o'clock, press the C button to move on to the next stage. Now we're doing exactly the same thing with the hour and minute hands at the same time. They should both be pointing exactly at 12 o'clock, but if not, hold down B and both the hour and minute hands will rotate. Press B to stop the rotation, then tap B individually to nudge the hands into the 12 o'clock position. Again, when everything's pointing at 12 o'clock, press C to move on. You can now calibrate the stopwatch hand, which is in the small dial at the top of the watch. Again, this should be pointing directly upwards, which is 60 on that dial. Again, use B to nudge it into place. And finally, when you press C to move on again, you'll be doing the same again with the stopwatch minute hand, which is the smaller dial on the left-hand side of the watch. Again, use B to get that hand pointing directly upwards to 60. And when you've done that, that's all the hands calibrated, and you just press A to come out of the settings mode. The watch should now be set correctly, and it's extremely unlikely that the time will be wrong, so double check you're in HT mode. If the time is still incorrect but it's just 1 hour off, this is most likely because daylight savings is on or off and it needs changing based on the time of the year. The attached instruction sheet will show you how to turn DST on or off. Please see the link in the description of the video. If the time is completely wrong, then you need to force a radio update. You can just leave the watch to update overnight, but if you'd like to force an update, the instructions attached to the video description will show you how to do that. So that's it. I hope this has helped you, because as far as I can see, this is the only set of instructions on the whole of the internet on how to set this blooming watch, and I don't think anyone could possibly work it out on their own. And even if you do manage to set the time manually, the radio signal will usually change it back overnight and it'll drive you crazy. So now you've set the watch, you've calibrated the hands, and nothing can go wrong. Give me a like and a subscribe and leave a comment if this has helped you. Bye for now.